If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. I'm your host, the Innkeeper, and this is our live call-in talk show all about the Wheel of Time. Now, today we're back on a Sunday afternoon to talk about Wheel of Time sword forms. But before we do that, I want to point out that, yes, we have on What Wednesday, Wheel of Games. Paul from Wheel of Games channel. It's a new one out there on YouTube. We're going to try to do some live gaming here on the channel on Wednesday. Yes, an actual Wheel of Time game, like Snakes and Foxes. That's right. That's coming up here Wednesday. Make sure to be back with us. And then if you noted today on Twitter, we put up the latest countdown. And yes, it's the maximum of 30 days until a trailer for the Wheel of Time drops. So yes, we've talked about this so many times. Trailer Gaidon is coming. That is what we keep on calling like a 12-hour live stream here on the channel covering that whenever it drops. So the countdown is on at this point, 30 days. And if you want to go answer a poll we have up on Twitter, you can go answer what week you think that that's going to drop. That's coming up. And then just as a reminder, that's right, Teleconriad. We know the series is going to drop in November. So once we know when the release date's at, we'll talk more about this. But this is going to be a really fun event here at the Dusty Wheel. It's going to include all sorts of content creators, everybody getting together to celebrate the day before, the day of, and the day after the release. Okay, that's it. But you're not here to talk about that right now. I know you're here to actually talk about Wheel of Time sword forms. And to do that with me, let me introduce my guest, Way of the Heron, Jim and Dylan. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you making time this Sunday. So cheers. Cheers.
Hey, thanks for having us. Hello, everybody.
Hello. So I know there was a lot of excitement. I heard a lot of people are just like, I'm so excited to see this. So, but before we do that, maybe explain to everybody what Way of the Heron is as far as a channel. I don't know which one you wants to go first, but yeah, just tell everybody who you are.
So Way of the Heron is a YouTube and Instagram channel and all that jazz where we try and take the sword forms from Wheel of Time and translate them into their closest like real world equivalent. So we take, boar rushes down the mountain or whatever, and we turn it into an actual sword form that you can learn and practice and use in sparring, So it's cool. At this point, we've turned the whole thing into a workable system of sparring, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. Yeah. Well, how many forms, if you will, have you posted for people to at least see and practice and actually maybe practice on their own?
I don't know how many we've posted at this point. I think we're upwards of 20, 25 posted. We have them all transcribed and a lot of them filmed, but not filmed in a way I'm willing to release. But a lot of them are up on our YouTube to learn. So we've kind of divided into subsections or paths, and we've got one or two of them up now. But I'd say about a third of the forms are up with tutorials now, and there's even more up with just demonstrations. But if you wanted to learn them, they're up there with tutorials, and we're trying to pump out as many as we can. So I actually said it to Corey Lansdale. He's trying to do 100 portraits this year, and I'm trying to get all the forms out. So that's our goal this year. To get them all up.
Okay, that's an awesome goal, and I want to talk about what your plans are for the rest of the year. We'll do that a little bit later, but I want everyone kind of showed up. I hyped this up, which was you guys had put together a Wheel of Time short, basically, of a fight from it. So I don't know, Dylan, do you want to explain what everyone's about to see? Let's jump into that and show them here. But yeah, maybe explain to them what that is, and then we'll play this for everybody.
Sure. So one of the big things that we've kind of gotten requests for loads kind of since starting the channel is to actually see a fight scene from the books. So we kind of talked amongst ourselves being like, oh, what are the coolest fight scenes in there? And one that we both loved was the fight scene between Galad and Valda. So we wanted to kind of put that together, look at the sword forms that were described, take what our interpretations for them and put them together in a little short film.
Yeah, it's awesome. And you just reminded me, I put a spoiler banner up. Spoilers.
Yeah,
spoilers.
Big spoiler.
Yeah, big time. The funny thing is my brother started reading the books last week and he's like, I can't wait to tune in tonight. And I was like, no, don't. No, don't go near it.
Well, if he did, I'm sorry. So yes, spoilers. We're not, again, this isn't spoilers for the books. But this is going to be a spoiler for this particular fight. And there's not, other than this, we're going to be talking about sword forms. We're not going to try to go through the whole books and just tell everybody everything. But there's always that moment as soon as somebody says something, I'm like, oh, yes, spoiler banner.
To be fair, I don't think we actually say which of us is which. So
that's very true.
You
could watch it and just guess.
Yeah.
But it's Schrodinger's duel right now.
Yeah.
Okay, here it is, everybody. I hope you are here for this premiere of this Wheel of Time short. This is from the prologue, right? Is Embers? Was it
Embers Falling on Dry Grass? Yeah.
Embers Falling on Dry
Grass.
Prologue. Yeah. Okay. Enjoy. This is amazing. I've already seen it, but I can't wait to see it again. Here you go. I love that. Oh, nicely done.
Thank you.
So yeah, amazing. I love seeing that. Again, it's one thing to just kind of see the forms that you're doing, but I love that you put it into an actual fight and actually put together really something fun for us to watch. Tell us, you're going to post, I'm assuming you'll post this afterwards to your channel and we can send it out to everybody if they want to see it. Okay, awesome. Okay, now I want to break down a little bit of this fight, but not. I don't want to. Maybe we'll come back to it and we'll dig into it. But I do want to have like one or two questions about it. I know people are going to be like, "Well, wait, I want to talk about this," but I want to then dig in a little bit where you guys like, how did this come to be? Like, how did we get that right there? You know, why did we get that? So, but I have one question. What's the name? Is there a name of the form at the end? Kind of that killing stroke. Is there a name to that one?
Yeah,
that we see?
that's reaping the barley, I believe.
Reaping the barley. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Duelist A uses it to dispatch Duelist B.
Reaping the barley. Okay, so I want to. Then this is the really fun stuff, and we'll get back to a lot of these. By the way, if you're here, hopefully you'll stick around. They brought a ton of these forms that they've done, little practice sequences, and we can talk about some of the forms that they've done. But tell me a little bit about reaping the barley. Like, did the books describe exactly what that looked like? How does this come together? What's the process that you guys have?
So
put together
we used quite an ancient art to put it together. When we were trying to work out how all these forms worked, we used Sudoku. So the first thing we did was we categorized all the forms into tiers. So we have tier 1 would be a form with a physical description and a counter, and that form is river undercuts the bank. It's the only one with both those things. Tier 2 is one with either a physical description or a counter. Tier 3 is one that counters tier 1 or tier 2. Tier 4 counters tier 3, so we're getting into like third-hand knowledge at this point. And then tier 4 was, to be honest, probably about a third of them just have no description at all, no context. So kind of working out from river undercuts the bank, we were able to say, all right, well, river undercuts the bank was used against the boar rushes down the mountain in this fight. So if river undercuts the bank looks like this, then boar undercuts the mountain must be this, or this, because they were what can counter it. And through a very painstaking process, we were able to kind of tease out what we think a lot of the forms would look like. Again, going off kind of the little snippets that like Robert Jordan gave us about his influences and that kind of thing. I think we've landed on something that would be relatively close to what he had initially thought in his head. But again, I stress these are just our interpretations because, you know, the way they were written was to be poetry and everybody could envision what they think the forms are. And this is just kind of how we envision them, as it were, with a little bit of extra homework.
Yeah, I love it. Like, Dylan, do you ever have a moment where you're like, you both commune on the interpretation? Or the opposite of that, where you're like, no, you're so wrong. Like, how does that work out?
I think there's a lot of times kind of where, we're just talking about, like, you know, the tier 1 and 2 ones where it's like, you know, I think like apple blossoms in the wind, and it's like, you know, it's a form where it's used to like fight off multiple opponents. And so but kind of not more is kind of said than that. So we kind of both will talk to ourselves like, okay, well, you know, kind of from our own experience, like if you're fighting against multiple opponents, kind of what type of moves do you need to do? And then usually it's fairly collaborative in that we kind of will agree, but like getting to that agreement may be always not so straightforward. But,
sometimes it turns into a sword fight. Funny.
Yeah. But like, you know, we do try to kind of like, right, you know, what are kind of like the concepts that you're in to get to this sort of, to get to the finished product. And then we kind of just agree on that and then put it together from there.
Like a very good example would be, say, Leaf on the Breeze. So originally Leaf on the Breeze had been, use a knife. Leaf on the Breeze had been kind of a thing where...
Do you want me to show this one? Because Leaf on the Breeze is one of the ones you sent, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. We sent that on.
Yeah, go ahead and I'll put this up so people can see what you're talking about. But yeah, go for it.
So initially it was like we turned the blade forward like this. And then a lot of our conversations when we're doing this have this moment that we call kind of like, oh, but what if? And then we realize, okay, so with Leaf on the Breeze, we used to have it as that. And then we retired that because we think if you ever try and swat a leaf out of the air with a stick, the air from the stick will actually buffet the leaf. So it moves away from the stick and you can never actually hit the thing. It's frustrating. But we thought maybe Leaf on the Breeze, because there's no description giving, would be kind of a situation where you're just swaying to move out of the way of the strikes, which is something you should never do in a real sword fight. But if you're a superhuman warder in Randland, yeah, go for it, you know? And then we did that and we cost checked it, right? It's meant to counter this. Does it counter this? If we do that? And actually, yeah, that works better. So now we have a new leaf on the breeze, and the old leaf on the breeze is sitting only in the corner. So there'd be lots of times like that where we'd go back and forth, and like that in that instance, that was Dylan was like, oh, this is a really good idea for leaf on the breeze, and I was like, yeah, that's much better than what we have. Let's go for it. So it's cool that, we can just bounce ideas back and forth like that, and we always end up on something, very cool, I think.
Yeah, I love that you're kind of recreating these with some research in the books, your just actual experience, and maybe this is a great segue. I'm sure people have tons of questions. There's, like I said, sword forms. We're gonna come back and do like a sword form breakdown. We're gonna play the short film again, so please stick around for that. We'll open the call lines later, and we'll let you call in if you have some questions for Jim and Dylan. Yep. But let's jump to, and I call it the origin story. So like, it's your origin story. Like, how did Way of the Heron come to be? So maybe Dylan, I don't know if I want to kick us off. Like, how do you guys know each other?
Sure. Me and Jim have been friends since we're 7. So I won't say exactly how many years that is, because that would be rude. But a fair few. So yeah, we've just been best friends since primary school, which I don't know, elementary school for non-Irish viewers. And yeah, we've been friends for years. We've done martial arts together. We've done things like parkour, martial arts tricking, and gymnastics, and all kind of just anything kind of crazy we've done together. So this is kind of the next step, because we both love Wheel of Time, obviously, but really into fantasy and stuff. And then kind of Jim had the idea of really kind of kicking it off. So I guess I'll let Jim explain how that element
chose
came
this.
from us.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that we had, like, I remember distinctly when we were very young, we were at some European competition in karate, and we were both doing sword katas, and we had spent like a half an hour kind of discussing what heron wading through the rushes would actually look like. So the two of us, everyone was there drilling their katas and stuff. The two of us were on the side, like with, the sword up like this, just balanced. We must have looked like maniacs. But it's always been something that we kind of discuss back and forth. And then the more we compete, the more we'd be like, oh, this could be this or that. And it never really solidified until I think it kind of kicked. I had the idea. I was in college doing illustration, and we had to do like an instructive illustration about something. And I said, oh, I'm totally going to do the sword forms from Wheel of Time. And I did that, finished the project, got the grade or whatever, and then just kind of kept at it as like a kind of just a fun thing I was doing in my spare time. And then there was actually to be a convention in the UK that fell through, but I had arranged with them that they wanted a sword demonstration. I said, oh, look, well, we do sword fighting. We can do it. And I think from there, that was kind of the birth of it as a thing. We started putting them on YouTube under another channel called Level Up before we, it was something else we were trying at the time. Never went anywhere, but, and then we made the decision to actually, you know what, let's actually go at this properly, because this is something we both love. We have these twin loves of sword fighting and the Wheel of Time. It would be rude not to, so we jumped on, we started making them, and like some of the early forms we did are rubbish. I mean, some of the new ones we did are rubbish as well, but they're it kind of went from there. What's really funny is at the time I had been doing some stunts in films and stuff.
Fun.
And it was Boar Rushes Down the Mountain. We had just made that one. And I was on an episode of Vikings, and I was fighting someone, and I did Boar Rushes Down the Mountain. So the first Wheel of Time sword form is technically in Vikings.
You were in an episode of Vikings? Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I was in one or two as a fighter in the background. It was really fun.
Oh my gosh, that's so fun. I friggin' love that show.
But I thought the Wheel of Time would appreciate my little espionage to throw a couple of sword forms in the back.
Oh, and now we have to know what episode. Can you tell us? Does this actually, did it make the cut? Can you see you doing Boar Rushes Down the Mountain?
Now, it's super blurry. It's meant to be one of these hectic scenes where the camera is kind of doing this and right. There's smoke everywhere, but you can kind of make it out in the background. It's season 3, episode 7, The Hill of Ash. We're fighting the Saracens.
I'm writing this down. You said season 3, episode 7? Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's called The Hill of Ash, which is kind of like their Dumas Wells. But
okay.
Yeah, so, no, it's very you'd be very hard pressed to find me unless you know what I was wearing, because I have a helmet and all on. But I die 6 times in that episode, which is really fun. But yeah, no, there's in that battle scene somewhere, and it's really hard to make it out. I was looking at it like half an hour trying to find myself, but yeah, Boar rushes down the mountain was in that battlefield. Another turning of the wheel. Yeah.
Well, I feel like I won't look it up right now because I feel like that would take way too much time. But man, season 3, episode 7, we got to find this. Yes, for all of you that are watching this, we need to find the clip and we need to see where the Wheel of Time is in Vikings. That's what a great story.
Dude, if it helps, I'm in kind of a studded jerkin and I'm covered in mud. I think somebody's
really
getting rugby tackled.
Studded jerkin.
Yeah, it's a very muddy episode. Someone gets rugby tackled immediately before it. I don't know if that helps, but yeah, I'll find it sometime.
No, this is helping. This is helping a lot. I think we should. We need to find this clip. That's awesome. So Dylan, what I heard from Jim was you guys were doing sword form kata. Like, how old were you? When people like are hearing this and they're going like, what? Like, how old were you guys when you were at was it championships or something, or a tournament?
Yeah, well, I mean, I've been to a few world championships for martial arts and like honestly countless national championships. So kind of we've just, like I ran a karate club along with my dad. Jim was a member. So kind of that's where kind of this little martial arts kind of comes from. As part of that, we'd go to like 4 or 5 competitions a year, probably. Kind of always, the two of us probably, usually always entering in the weapons section and doing kata. And kind of just a lot of it, obviously some like, taking from like traditional forms and stuff. A lot of it was kind of like taken from like freestyle and kind of like, learning, figuring out our own way of doing things as well. In that aspect. So like there's and yet a lot of kind of unusual looks when you're trying to do odd things with swords sometimes. But
we used to try and copy the moves from Dynasty Warriors and everything in the real bad.
That was like when we were teenagers. So I mean, like it was like probably between the ages of 13 and 18 was when we were kind of competing regularly and all the time. So kind of a lot of those kind of, I guess, early ideas came from those experiences, Yeah,
I love this. Like the idea that you were out there just practicing kata, and out like, is this something that you guys was it? I think when we had talked about this, you said you would actually practice kata in like the parks sometime. Is that right? Like, did you not have like? Was it not because you didn't have a dojo, or were you just like, I'm just gonna practice my kata because
we can, not real into it. So we'd be just everywhere.
Well, I totally get
weird
that.
places doing katas.
I once skipped school to go do martial arts in the park, like on just like a random Wednesday. So it was just kind of our thing. But
funny enough, we like again, Dylan and I were just speaking about this earlier, but like you do find some weird characters as well. Like we found a character, we called him Sensei. What was it, Sensei Soft Scoop or something like that? But in one of the parks, we used to have. We used to train kata and stuff, and the park keeper would be there. And then one of the days he walked by us, and anyone who knows karate will get why this is weird, but he walked by us and he was like, Zenkutsu Dachi's a bit high there, lads. It turns out the guy had like multiple black belts and had fought in like the Middle East and like had trained people in the Middle East and had done all this martial arts and took his time out to really like teach us some, straight up park combos. But
I like Sensei
real weird.
Some real life experience that he was trying to share with us and stuff, and we're like, cool. We're 15.
Like in hindsight, not the best situation. Like, and this is like just random big guy walked over us to in a park, and he's like, if anyone ever tries to steal your girlfriend's purse, here's what you do. And we're like, okay, we'll learn your moves.
That's so good. Well, because I think I told you this. I spent like 3.5 years learning in the Shotokan karate, and never got to swords almost. But that idea of somebody walking by and saying like your Zenkutsu Dachi is too high. By the way, it comes with a lot of pain. Like there's a lot of pain in my mind when I hear that, because all I know is I can feel my legs like burning, burning, and I'm like, he wants me to go lower in this stance. No, I don't think I want to. I can just feel my sensei's hand like on my shoulder, just like a little bit of pressure. It's just coming down. So yeah, I totally get that, and I get why that's like really strange in a park where this dude just sees you and it's like, hey, by the way, Zenkuchadash.
Especially because he'd never really spoken to us before, and then suddenly he's critiquing our martial arts, and we're like, okay, who's this? And then like, okay, you kind of seem like, you know, like what you're talking about, so fine.
Yeah. But sorry,
amazing.
he used to give ice cream out. So not only he's approaching strange kids in the park, but he's distributing ice cream as well. So he's, with the benefit of hindsight, I'm glad we.
It was a
didn't stick around
different,
there,
simpler time, Jim. You know.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, that is the greatest story. What I love is that it sounds like he did actually impart some martial
He
arts
actually
wisdom. Like that.
You know, there
seems
was
like
little bits that you'd still kind of use today. Like, you know, he knew his stuff, whether or not he was on the, like, whether he was sane or not.
right.
One question, but he knew his stuff. In fairness to him, you know.
I wouldn't want to fight him, like, so.
No, and I still wouldn't want to fight him because he was a big guy, like, and
he was a big guy.
Yeah.
You know, he had stories, man.
And look, if you're watching, no offense, hope you're doing well.
If you're watching, we're not going to tell you where we live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That is, by the way, for an origin story, that's an amazing one. Sensei Soft Scoop is, I mean, and you guys grew up with in martial arts as friends, and that this came to be because of that. When did you come, before we jump, and by the way, if you're just joining us, we're talking about Wheel of Time sword forms. We just watched a Wheel of Time short that Way the Heron, Jim and Dylan put together for us about a fight from the books. We'll actually play it again here in another couple minutes. But I want to ask you about your fandom of the books, and then we're going to jump in and actually break down some sword forms with people here. And then we'll open up the call lines. We'll do some other stuff here. Oh, yeah. And if you're here, I told you on Wednesday that Taylor left and I was running the show by myself and I didn't know how to start up the giveaway. So we'll give away some mugs today too. So if you stuck around by this long, you know, and you want to be part of the mug giveaway, we'll start that up here in 5 or 10 minutes. You can join in that. And then by the end of the show, we'll give away, like, let's say 2 mugs. We'll give away 2 mugs today too. So there we go. Okay. Now Wheel of Time. I understand how the martial arts, I understand how the friendship works. I understand the story of your dedication because you're in the park. I understand Sensei Soft Scoop. But where does the Wheel of Time work into this whole story?
I mean, I started reading Wheel of Time. A good friend recommended it to me. Actually recommended it to me on the basis of the fight scenes. I've been reading a load of David Gemmell at the time, so I was kind of really into that. It was kind of like action books. I think I'd probably, you know, me and Jim were reading them as well at the same time. And then one of my friends had read a couple of them, was like, explaining to me, you know, talking about how cool warders are, and like, you know, how like all the sword forms have these cool names, and how like Murdrall are terrifying and all this sort of stuff. I was like, cool, I'll watch or read or do anything related to fantasy. So I, you know, checked them out. Whatever, 18 years ago or so, and yeah, I've kind of just been a huge fan ever since.
How long ago? So like, was it 18 years ago? What, I mean, I don't want to age you necessarily, but how old were you then when you picked that up? And did you? I think I was like 13, 14. Okay.
Yeah.
And was it around the same time for you, Jim? Was it also that same time?
Yeah, it was. I think Dylan had just finished Eye of the World, and he put me onto it. And then I read 2 pages, and I was like, "Oh, red-haired protagonist! I'm in this for the long haul." But yeah, no, I love it. Because again, we had nerded out over David Gemmell for years before that. I say years, like 2 or 3 years. But like we grew up with Lord of the
Oh, did we lose you there? Oh, sorry. I don't know if you lost me there.
Yeah, I think you lost Jim.
Well, now hopefully Jim will come back. You can tell us the story, Dylan. Yeah, like obviously you guys grew up.
It kind of all just.
Oh, there you go. You're back.
You know? Am I back?
You're back. You're back. But
Okay,
you're like,
cool,
and
cool,
that's how it happened.
Yeah, exactly. And once I was able to hide the body, then it was I can say that from there. You know? No, I was just saying we used to love fantasy. Like I grew up reading Lord of the Rings and stuff. So yeah, exactly. Well, once Jill put up me onto the Eye of the World, I was hooked, and then from then on in, we were just cyclical rereads until today. You know?
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. By the way, because of you both, I put up a poll in chat here. Do you have at least one childhood friend who is a fan of the Wheel of Time? If you want to join us, if you're watching us off of social media on Twitter or Facebook, come join us on YouTube, answer these polls, get a chance at these mugs. Again, just look us up at the Dusty Wheel. And please do, if you're watching this, go open up another window in your browser, whatever it is on your phone, pause the video, sure. Go to Way of the Heron and go follow them. Subscribe to their channel and come back and watch the rest of this interview. Please do that. These guys deserve it. You can tell so much passion and love is put together and put into this. So now, why don't we this? If you're just joining in, you missed this at the beginning. By the way, the poll looks like, yeah, it's kind of, actually, I'm kind of surprised. The poll right now is 42% of the people here have at least one childhood friend who's a fan of the Wheel of Time. That's shocking to me. I thought it was going to be more like 5%, 10%. So that's good. That's impressive. Okay. So I want to play this one more time and show fans this. Then we're going to jump into some of the sword forms and kind of talk a little bit more. But yes, here you go. This is the fight between, from Embers on Falling. Go ahead and introduce it. I always forget the name of the prologue. I'm going to totally mess it up.
Oh no, I can't remember it. Embers. We called it Embers on Dry Grass. Embers Falling on Dry Grass.
Yes. Yeah. And this is between this is Valda and Galad, right?
Valda and Galad, yeah.
Okay, here you go. Enjoy this one more time, and then, like I said, we'll break this down in other forms. Okay, that's so good. Sheesh. Love that. Okay, so I did see this note. I have to show this this comment before we move on here. Where is it at? This is from Jay Abbott. He said, that poll is biased towards people that had childhood friends.
Oh, Jay.
Yes, it is.
Very sorry for you.
It is.
We'll be your friend.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. That was great. I really appreciate you guys putting that together again. And I got this note from one of my admins. Well, first of all, let me thank all of you that are here from social media on Twitter and Facebook. I think we'll just thank you for being here again. I hope you enjoyed this kind of sneak peek of the show. But I want to jump to do this giveaway, and then we'll get started here. Like I said, the giveaway is for a mug. There'll be 2 mugs that will be given away. And like I said, Taylor's not here, so we're going to see if I can pull this off without Taylor being here, everybody. So wish me luck, but we can, we'll see if this works. Who knows? Like I said, Taylor's not here. So what's going to happen is it doesn't work. And then I'm going to have to give away 4 mugs, and I have to make sure sit Taylor down and be start the giveaway there, bud. You can't leave us while the giveaway is happening. So we'll wait for this. We'll wait for that. Oh, it looks like it started. There we go. It's in chat. Woo! So if you want to take part in this, if you want a chance at a mug, just type in !raffle as a single word in chat. You have to be over here on YouTube. Otherwise, you're not going to see it. You can't take part in it. So sorry about that if you are not here on YouTube with us, but just come over here and then you can jump in. So okay, while that's happening, let's jump to this. You gave us a ton of different forms to talk about. I want to talk about the TV series, kind of where you're going with the channel. But before we do that, I want to talk about the kind of some sword form breakdown. Is there one here you'd like to start with? I mean, you gave us a lot, so maybe we start with one that you want to explain. Let's go there.
You mentioned reaping the barley at the start. So maybe do you want to start with that one, Jim?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of also at the end. So
that's very fitting for the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
Which one is this? Taylor only gave me like the short version of it. What was the name of the title?
Reaping the barley is
Reaping the barley.
Reaping the barley. Okay. Let me see if I have that one.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, because honestly, I always get all these names mixed up a lot.
Oh, I mean,
Jim
yeah,
is the
I can't count
organizer
the
in
amount
this.
of times.
I kind of come here with some ideas sometimes.
This is hilarious. I don't think Taylor gave me that one.
Oh, really?
He didn't give me reaping the barley, so I don't have that one for some strange reason. Yeah, we can start with
random, sure.
yeah. So let's was it? I want to say it begins with it ends with straw. What's that one? It was
I feel like it's reaping the straw.
Is it reaping the straw? Let's try that one.
It is.
That
could be.
Oh, it is. That is.
There we go. Yeah, sorry. That's one of those ones where he has multiple very similar names.
Sometimes.
Yeah. That's
and
exactly.
Jim does get confused. I'm not going to lie. Jim does get confused.
So yeah, this is the one that we actually see in the fight itself. Yeah. So maybe talk to us about this one. Yeah. So what's the whole concept behind this move? Yeah.
So the whole end of that fight is really very interesting because it's a battle of wits towards the end where Valda thinks he has him and Galad is kind of feigning being tired. So you can see like as it goes on, Galad gets more and more tired. And reaping the barley, the straw, harvesting the oats is one of those forms that that only has very little description. In fact, I think the only description, I don't have my note on it here, but I think the only description for that one is that it counters Swallow Takes Flight, which is what I'm doing in that. And my stance is atrocious, so if Sensei Scoop is looking at that, ignore my stance in that shot. But yeah, no, that one is actually, that's one of the forms that Dylan made up for this. So I think our thought process going into it had been like reaping is very much a like gather hook. You know, you picture someone with a scythe or something. So going off that, I'll let Dylan jump in a second. But we knew that Swallow Takes Flight had been. Hold on, I have the sword. Is this motion? So working from that, then we said what could counter that, and then Dylan jumped in and came up with Reaping the Barley, which is one of my favorite forms that we've done actually.
The whole idea, I think it was as Jim said, like Galad is like, feigning that he's very tired and very desperate and is using the same form over and over again to kind of lure him into like this false sense of security, and then like at the last minute changes it. So yeah, as you kind of see at the end there, he feints with, I think it's Treading Needle, to kind of like bring Swallow Takes Flight from Valda, and then knowing it, like we said, as Jim said, it's like a grab and a cut. So like instead of following through, I went grab the hand as if I'm grabbing him, and then reap and cut through as like a thing. So it's those kind of like, I guess, thought processes that we have where sometimes you literally just have a description. So we're kind of thinking like, well, what kind of like image does that evoke, or kind of like what sort of movement does that sound like? And then again, as Jim was saying, if we're told it counters something, well then how could that work? So that's kind of our interpretation of how those sword forms interact with each other.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And you mentioned threading the needle. I can show that one too. You brought that one. So what are people seeing in threading the needle?
Threading the needle is one of the more simple forms. You basically twist your arm, you kind of twist your guard and try and stab them around their guard. So in this situation, again, Valda was he was actually in a very open guard because at this point he thought he'd won the fight. And threading the needle is a nice move because it's almost a desperation move from Galad, in that he's throwing all his weight behind it, and he knows that in using this form he's going to be able to evoke a particular thing. He's kind of playing 3D chess with him at this point, Yeah. But there's a line in it, and I think it says if Valda was to die, it had to be soon, because he knows he's got all these wounds, and Valda only has the one on his forearm. So he's like, I need to finish it soon. So he's feigning this move, threading the needle, which is actually quite a simple move. And I think if you're in a sword fight and you're almost dead, you're going to rely on simple moves, nothing too flashy. So
Yeah.
it's nice. It's quite a simple form, but the meaning behind it in this fight is a lot more. It's more about trying to sell that he's weak by using this form.
Yeah, it was just like, it was the psychological play of like, yeah, I'm going to do something very simple, like a very direct attack. And again, we're kind of coming from the whole like concept, like, oh, if you're threading a needle, you're trying to do like a very like precise move, and so it's like kind of like get your blade onto your opponent's blade and then like thread through. So that's kind of what you're trying to do. But again, very easily blocked if you're in that particular form. But again, that's what Galad was going for, and it works out for him. Spoilers, sorry.
I remember I had I had a fencing instructor once who had the best explanation for this mindset, and it's a bit not crass, but he was Italian, and it's a very Italian way of describing this. But he used to say that when you're fencing someone, their blade is like your mistress. They think the blade is doing what they want, but really it's working for you the whole time. And I was like, okay, that's the most Italian, disheartening way I've ever heard that described. But it actually is the perfect description of this scene where Valda thinks he's in control, but Galad is actually not only using his blade, but is now so in control of the fight that he's positioning Valda's blade in the fight, which I think is incredible and really well written. And it was only when we sit down to actually read through this fight, we were like, oh my God, this is such a good fight.
Well, that's one of the I remember my sensei always saying, like, he liked to know, like, if you were stupid enough to grab him, he was like, why did you tell me where your hands are? It's that same concept of like, you've just given me your hands, basically, in that same way. Like now they're his hands, and he can do with them what he wants. And I never, when he explained it that way, I remember always being like, well, but wait, but I'm grabbing you. And he's always like, exactly.
It's
like,
one less weapon you have.
Yeah, you don't know
now
what my
I have
hands
two
are,
hands and you have one.
Yeah, exactly. And he definitely made me pay, like, and I could see what he meant. Like, as soon as that happened, he'd throw me, whatever it was, he would twist me up, and I'd be like, oh, okay, so but wait, how do you, anyways, it would turn into this conversation of like, so I don't get, am I supposed to do anything here? And he was like, that's exactly the point. So no, I love that example of, like you said, if you're in that battle or in that fight, if you're doing it right, then like you said, you're looking at the opponent's weapon as your weapon. And I think that's a great way to think about it. So these are the two, the threading the needle and bundling the straw is the kind of way that it's described here. But yes, that's why I was like, I couldn't.
That was tired Jim trying to remember offhand.
Okay. I did want to, like I said, for those of you who watch on social media, if you're watching us on Facebook or Twitter, do two things. One, go follow these gentlemen on Way of the Heron over on YouTube. Then come join us on YouTube, because the sneak peek that you had into this, the second half of this, we'll continue talking about these individual sword forms, continue talking about the history these two have with sword forms themselves, sword kata, martial arts, etc. I'm going to talk about some of the things Robert Jordan has said about, and I want to bring some of those up here just shortly. And then you can also join our mug giveaway, and we'll give away those as we get closer to the end of the show, and we'll still have some calls coming up. So I always want to, let Facebook and Twitter know that we're going to sign off from them, before as it happens. So, okay. I want to talk a little bit about what Robert Jordan said about these sword forms, and kind of break some of those quotes down and ask you both how it's either instructing or not instructing what you're doing. So this first quote that we have from Robert Jordan, this one, let me throw this off so you can see this. This was a Barnes & Noble chat in November 2000. These are not in order. We're going to go back in time, forward in time a little bit. But Clayton asked, first, I thoroughly enjoyed the Wheel of Time series. Is there an actual form of martial arts that inspired the sword forms? And are the forms you mentioned in the books part of this art, or are they your own creation? Robert Jordan said, the sword forms described in the book are my own creation, but they are based in part on the Japanese art of the sword and also on fencing as it developed, when it was well on its way to becoming a martial art as we define them today, when it was developing in the Renaissance, is what he meant. So that's one piece to this. I want to add in this other next quote. This one was from January 2006 from his blog. He wrote, for Anonymous, the Great Jedi, the sword forms are all my creations, but they and their names are patterned on sword forms used by the Japanese and Chinese. No, I am not a student of any of these sword forms. I own the books illustrating a fair number of them, however, which, by the way, I didn't realize there were books. I was like, I want those books. Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen Robert Jordan's sword form books. Oh,
I know. I'm going to have to, maybe I'll have to reach out to Maria and just be like, hey, heard there were books. People would love to know the titles at the very least. So yeah, maybe we can find that out. That'd be really cool. He also said this in 1994. Someone asked, are the sword forms based on reality? I love that question. He said, his answer was sort of based on Taekwondo and Karate, but from books, not experience. I loved those 3 quotes. So I want to throw this at you two. We have Taekwondo and Karate. We have fencing. And then we also have Japanese and Chinese, and from Japanese martial arts, Chinese martial arts, patterned off of illustrations he read in a book. So is this helpful? Or not? Like,
yes.
Is this the mix of things that you kind of look into? Yeah. How does this work for your process?
You're going to have to stop me talking here eventually. Okay? Because those particular quotes are very close to my heart, and they're stuff that I definitely considered when I started this off. Particular when he's talking about the Japanese and the Chinese names. So like when I started looking at this, I was also thinking, right, well, this is where he started, so I should start here. And I was looking at all the Chinese names and stuff. So like a lot of them are coming from Northern Shaolin. Which a lot of you would know from Jackie Chan Adventures. Remember that guy who was like, Tiger Mouse chases the lion and all that stuff? He was great. But like, so Northern Shaolin has moves like dragon and tiger appear, white snake shoots venom. Like there's one that's great. It's precious duck swims through lotus. And then there's actually funny to think of it. There's one farmer hoes rice field, I think, which is, we're reaping barley when you think about it.
Right.
So like 100%, like a lot of these names and stuff are coming from Northern Shaolin, which is like, which kind of gave me a direction to go in originally thinking about it. I was like, right, well, this is where the names are coming from. Maybe these books he had were Northern Shaolin documents, because you get manuscripts and they are like illustrated. You get a little picture of the guy like this, and then you get a little picture of the guy blocking him like this. And you're like, okay, this is how this form works or whatever. And then he had also mentioned karate. No, I didn't hear the Taekwondo one, which is cool.
Yeah, I know that was. I didn't realize he. Yeah.
Yeah, but karate has, like, karate in its own thing doesn't actually have weapons. There's karate and there's kobudo, and they're 2 sister arts. And karate is the way of the open hand, and kobudo is weapons. But even kobudo in itself doesn't actually have katana in it. But it's funny because Dylan and me actually learned katana through karate. So like it's kind of developed to have that over the years. But thinking about all that, I again, this started forming up in my head. And then also there's the historical European stuff. So the fencing and kind of the longsword, the German longsword, the Italian longsword, all that kind of stuff. And when I was making this, when we were making this, we really wanted this to be a case of, it's going to be a universal language that somebody, because a big thing in the Wheel of Time is multiculturalism, right? And I wanted it to be a case of, you got a Sean Shan Blade Master going against Ran. The Sean Shan, I won't do this with a sword, I'll do it with a pen. The Sean Shan steps in like this. Okay, cool. The Sean Shan steps in like this, and Ran steps in like this. 2 completely different moves, 2 completely different stances, but the angle of the blade, the attitude they carry would say, he's in Moon on Water. I don't recognize the stance, but I recognize the form. And I think that's really important. And that's a very important thing we've tried to carry through with all of this, that if you're watching us doing it, we're doing it from a karate background, so strong stances, squared shoulders, all that kind of stuff. But you can just as easily translate this to fencing, turn your shoulders, whatever. And it's more about the concept than the actual movement.
That's really, that's a really good way for people to kind of understand this, which is, that your background is influencing, like you said, the stances themselves. And I think that, because I'm sure, my guess is you guys get comments on your videos from people that maybe disagree with some of, they might disagree with your stances.
The one thing I would say about the sword community online is that they are passionate and they are not afraid to let you know it. We have a lot of sword aficionados commenting.
Yeah, I think
that's really cool.
It is super important to kind of realize that these are this is a fantasy form of sword fighting, and like even directly, your quotes there directly from Robert Jordan himself, where he's taken from some wildly different styles, all various different approaches. So I mean, yeah, these are our interpretations of the sword forms. So I mean,
Exactly.
if you've been studying Aido for years, great. You're of course going to look at what we're doing, be like, well, that's not how I would do that particular cut or something. Like, yeah, because it's not an Aido cut. You know, we've kind of, as you
This is
said,
a fantasy cut for superhumans, you know.
Yeah, we've looked at all these kind of like different influences, but you know, it's not a traditional martial art. It's like Wheel of Time itself. It's a big old mess of things mixed together.
It's sword fighting MMA. Basically, but I mean, I think that's again because he was looking at three wildly different sources. But I think we were quite lucky in that we trained a lot of the actual styles he mentioned. And to go back to that for a second, like a lot of the forms we use will just be so. For example, we 5 or 6, actually 8 at the moment of the forms we have are just guard positions. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just your different guards that you walk through. They're the first ones you learn. But like, so say Eel amongst the lily pads is just a tail guard from Hema. So for all our guard positions, we use the guards from historical European martial arts and the longsword, which are super interesting. If you ever like look into them, there is an entire, from then to now, there's a documented history of illustrations. It's so cool. But so we took all the guards from that, and we took the footwork from Shaolin, and we took the strikes from fencing and kendo. So it is like an absolute of forms, but it comes close. And I think we might have come really, really close to what he was imagining in his head. But I don't want to say that either, because what he was imagining isn't what someone else was imagining. You know, isn't what I was imagining, isn't what Dill was imagining. So
yeah, I'm sure there's so
we're
many
very
people
happy
out there,
with where we landed.
There's so many people out there going, Sensei Soft Scoop did not teach it to me that way. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That's not how he taught it to me. He taught it to me like, that's a terrible stance you have. You know, I'm sure. I mean, Dylan, is there a favorite comment for you, or maybe 1 or 2 favorite comments that you've gotten from viewers so far that just sticks in your mind when you think about, like, you post something and then there's just like a lot of passionate.
I mean, you get a lot of people like critiquing the type of swords we use as well.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, they're like, oh, why would you have like, you know, your hilt like that and stuff? It's like, because these are the swords that we have available, but 2, like the sword, Jim, if you can hold up the sword you have there, like, I mean,
we're very proud of this.
Yeah,
we made a bucket of the old windlass saber.
Yeah, so I mean, so like, you know, yeah, you get a lot of people just being very, passionate, but also, you know, finicky about things. And like I mean, I get it. Like, you know, particularly if the only kind of type of sword fighting, you know, if you only know one way of sword fighting, you see someone else swording, you're like, well, that's not it. And then we also get, I think my personal favorite is like, oh, that's so unrealistic. And again, fantasy sword forms. You know, Lan can cut crickets out of the air, you know, because he heard them taking off from a blade of grass. Yeah, I mean, if he's that fast to do that, then yeah, he could probably pull off some of these sword forms as well. He could easily like sway and move and duck under another person attacking with a sword. So that's probably my favorite one, where people are like, this isn't realistic, and we're like, yeah, we know.
Well, I mean, yeah, exactly. And it's funny because I remember in the books, just like you said, he left a lot open to interpretation, right? Like, he was just like, and he basically does this, whatever it is. Like, I saw Rajesh in chat say something like, basically any short phrase could be a sword form.
Oh, yeah,
like, that's like,
it's
like he did, tipping forward and grabbing the wrapper or something, whatever, you know, it's like, and it's like, oh, that makes sense, you know, and you're like, oh, you are imagining what probably is, but somebody else is like, that's not how I see it. And so I like it's like brilliant to leave it open that way.
That's what I love about it. Like, I have like aphantasia, so I can't like visualize things like fully in my head, but like when I read things, I get like a feel for it. So like when I kind of read those descriptions, it's like, you know, kind of what do they emulate? And what Jim was saying there earlier about like, you might have 2 sword masters in slightly different stances, but like they have that same, you know, they're maybe in a particular mindset. So like, you know, the boar charges down the mountain you're in a particular mindset of like, heavy overhand attacks. What that actually looks like is going to vary from person to person, but
Right.
it's like kind of like
Exactly.
you're in that mindset, and like that's what I thought was like brilliant about the descriptions.
It's
of
so
the
clever,
books.
and it comes back to, again, everything comes back to Sensei Scoop. But you know, we had never met before. We didn't know each other. Even Matt, you and I were talking before the show. I said Zen Kutsudachi, and you knew what I meant. You know,
Yes.
that's what I like. It's a unifying language for people who might not necessarily speak the same language, being martial arts, like a kendo guy and a fencer, but this would be a middle ground for them where they could say, yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the best way to deal with the comments as well, is like, they're like, oh, well, you know, your foot needs to be 2 inches more this way and you're not meant to be wearing a hoodie. And I'd be like, oh, okay, cool. So
You're not
taking the
meant to be wearing a
mindset,
hoodie.
how would this, yeah, I mean, I get a lot. I got peer pressured into buying something more akin to the Wheel of Time pants because people don't like me doing this in jeans. And in my defense, they're Chuck Norris jeans. They stretch.
They're
But,
Chuck Norris. Oh, that's not-
But I think if you were to take anything away from the Way of the Heron, it's that it's our interpretation, and we would love you to take the sense of these forms and use them in your own
Yeah.
style, you know. And don't take it as the letter of the law, because who are we? We're just two plebs from Ireland, you know.
By the way, my tipping tipping forward was, by the way, a terrible live random sword form. I honestly, I will say this: not every short phrase makes a great one. So it does take a little bit more. Takes a little bit more
Those
creativity.
didn't quite make the cut for the books, but they're
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
the starting forms.
Yeah.
Andrew Berenson said discarded sword form, tipping the innkeeper. Yes, exactly. And Alyssa
know,
Power just wrote like, I do reach for the wrapper about 1,000 times a day. Yeah, exactly. I know that feels. But see, I'm
I know,
sure Alyssa reaches for the wrapper. Her form would be
Exactly.
different than other people.
Exactly. She might reach like that, and you would reach like that. You know.
Exactly.
This is it. It's the soul of the thing. I know Matt from Malkir's King. He has a list of like Twitter of Time suggested not sword forms, and they're all fantastic. Like, you should check it out. It's really, really funny.
Okay, yeah, well, you have to give me a link for that so we can put it in the description. By the way, we're talking about this. We're going to open calls in just a couple minutes. Maybe I'll do that right now. How about I do that right now? I'll show everyone the call lines. You can call in. We'll weave you into the conversation. That's right. You can give us a call at 1-313-825-5968. That's 1-313-825-5968. If you have a question, you just want to tell these gentlemen how wonderful that Wheel of Time short film was at the beginning, or if you're wondering about a form or whatever it is, feel free to give us a call. We might not be able to take all the calls, but jump on in and let us hear from you. Now, while we wait, I want to look at some of these sword forms and kind of dig into some of these. Are there any here? I have, like, for example, I want to say I have a bunch, like the hummingbird kisses. What is it? The hummingbird kisses the honey rose.
Yeah. So that's one of my favorites. And again,
okay.
I don't give the best example of it here, but it's one of those
Okay.
ones that Robert Jordan wrote it down, and I got it. We just understood what it was. Like, it makes so much sense, and I love it because he definitely knew what he was talking about. He might say he didn't train this stuff, but he knew what he was talking about, you know, which is fantastic.
Yeah, this one. What is the concept behind this? Just maybe explain the concept behind what we're seeing here.
So this one is only mentioned in passing in this duel, but when it's used the best, I think, is Pedron Niall uses it in one of his duels. I think it's in book 3. I can't remember. No, book 4. It's a duel anyway between him and I can't even remember who he's fighting. So impressive was he. But he uses it, and basically the idea is the person he's fighting is making wide open, like, berserker swings at him. And what this form does is it punishes somebody for overextending like that. So again, I don't give the best example of it in that video, but if somebody is putting too much strength into a strike and they really overswing, there's a moment where they're open. And what this is described in the books as a form that is used against somebody who's being aggressive and whittles them down with 1,000 little cuts. So what's happening in this form is as they swing, you pull back and you tap them on the wrist, and then they get angrier and they swing again, and you pull back and you tap them on the thigh, and then, you know, a minute and a half later, they've got 1,000 little cuts on them, and they can't stand up anymore, and you've won the fight just as a little hummingbird.
By the way, I have
guard.
an actual memory of that. So, like I said, I didn't learn any sword kata, but I remember having a staff. and our sensei had us, kind of moving, having kind of a mock fight, if you will, like at about 50% speed. And there were three of us. I think two had swords, and I had a staff, and my sensei had, I think, maybe he had a staff also. I remember overextending, and he slammed that thing on my wrist so hard that my weapon dropped, and I was like, yeah, that's effective.
Yeah.
So I have a
I've
personal
done that to my
experience with
students
this.
before, where you kind of just like, it's almost like a bullfight. You kind of just let them come in and you kind of give them a little wrap across the head, just kind of be like, you're open there, you're open there. So yeah, it's really that kind of.
I totally get it. Yeah, like seeing that.
Fighting style.
And it's absolutely one of my favorite forms. And I think you've done that to me a few times as well when we're sparring. I'd be doing a big haymaker back in the day, and they'll be like, "Oh nope."
What's leopard caress? Is that all? Is it a leopard's caress? Is that the name of the form?
The leopard's caress. Yeah. So that's part of Valda's opening gambit. And what it is so I actually released a video on this last week, I think. But so we took that as if you look at a leopard, it kind of swats like that. And there's a move in fencing called a semi-affondo, which is a fondo is just a straight stab, or at least how I was taught. I've only had the briefest introduction to fencing, but a straight stab, and a semi-affondo is kind of where you glance the blade. So instead of stabbing straight, you're drawing the blade along the edge of your target. And in this fight, again, the little bit of context we had was that it was countered by parting the silk, and that it went for the left calf. So we know, we put in A, B, C, D, E, X, whatever together. We came out that it's probably one of these semi-affondos where you're very quickly, like a leopard, in drawing a cut along their thing and then pulling out again as quick as you can.
I'm showing parting the silk right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and so what's the concept behind parting the silk?
The Bodyguard, basically, just the movie The Bodyguard. We figured, parting the silk, it's a silk, I don't have a sheet of paper, but we figured kind of that's, fabric falling that way and a nice clean cut coming upwards. But it's actually a very nice form to practice in katas and stuff. So there's another form called Arc of the Moon that's very similar, but parting the silk is, the blade is kept kind of close to your body when you do it, as you do it. And it's an uppercut, so it can be used like a standard attack, but it's far more useful to intercept an opponent's attack, like you'd see in the video there, where Donal comes in, does the attack, and then a big thing with a lot of these forms is that you exit the line of combat. So their attack is coming straight towards you, so you have to move to the side and throw back in at an angle. So this is just basically preempting their strike, real Bruce Lee strike their strike kind of thing. Yeah. But it's a fun form, and it's really one of the forms that's very graceful and lends itself to the whole dance thing a lot, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. Kath just said in chat, this form is really beautiful. We have 4 people waiting on the call here. We have other forms to discuss. We have another 30 minutes to go, at least, in the show. But I know you've all been waiting for us. Hopefully you've all joined in on the mug giveaway. I'm going to close that in like 30 seconds. So last opportunity to join the mug giveaway. We'll close that. I'll pick one winner right now. Then we'll bring in the callers, and I'll pick the second winner at the end of this call, or this our show today. So, like I said, you have just about a couple more seconds to join in. Hopefully you did. And this is it, everybody. Let's close these entries up, and let's pick a winner of the mug giveaway. So here you go. Okay. By the way, thank you very much, Roger. Roger just left us a tip. Roger said, thanks for this awesome episode. Great guest, as always. By the way, great documentary about sword fighting, Reclaiming the Blade by Viggo Mortensen. So I don't know if you've either of you have seen that, but yeah, thank you very much.
He is seemingly a very good sword fighter, which is
apparently
so cool.
He picked everything up in one go. What a legend.
Oh, really?
Like
what an absolute hero.
The stunt guy from New Line Cinema was like, I once asked, who's the greatest swordsman you ever worked? And without skipping a beat, he was like, Viggo Mortensen. Nobody was close. Yeah.
That's weird. That's hilarious. Yeah. That's awesome. What a nice thing to say. Okay, we're going to pick a winner of the mug. Good luck, everyone. Like I said. Oh, and let's end this, by the way. All of you, just about 200 votes on who had friends. We left this poll going the entire time. Do you at least have one childhood friend who is a fan of the Wheel of Time? 41% of you said yes, you do. Wow, that is actually That's a lot.
That's cool.
And that's
Yeah, that's
really
very
cool. So like, congratulations for you, those of you that had friends. And
Yeah.
that one of them was reading the Wheel
That's
of
the
Time.
first hurdle.
yeah. You made that hurdle. Okay, let's pick a winner. Our first winner of the giveaway is, I mean, again, I don't have the drum beat rolling. I should have gotten the drum beat for us. It is Gabriella has won a Dusty Wheel mug. Hopefully, Gabriella, you are here. Congratulations on that mug win. Like I said, we're going to give away a second mug. But yes, congratulations, Gabriella. If you're not here, you will miss this. So if you are here, please do reach out to us on Discord, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere. People are going to mention your name and tell you congratulations here. Hopefully you see it and come back to us. If I don't see a note from Gabriella here over the next, 20 minutes, maybe we'll give away 2 at the end of the show. Okay. Let's bring in our first caller into the show. They were kind enough to wait here for us. Let me welcome to the Dusty Wheel. Who's this?
Hi,
Hello?
good afternoon. Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, we can. Who's this?
Hi, this is Diljit. I'm calling from India.
Oh, Dajid, so awesome to have you. I love it. Sorry for making you wait here. I didn't even notice there was that long distance of a call. So thank you so much for calling in. So what's your question or thoughts for our panelists?
Hey, the first thing that I wanted to share, I saw you posted this, the schedule for the stream that this will be happening on so-and-so day. And I immediately started Googling, and YouTubing sword forms. And one of the first channels that I came across was Way of the Heron. And I
Awesome.
thought when the call
Hey.
happens, I will
Nice.
call and suggest everyone to follow or subscribe to Way of the Heron. I think they have very few subscribers, which is a crime. More and more people need to, and turns out that they are the special guests. So I don't even need to tell people to go and subscribe to them.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's incredible. Thank you.
Yes, I agree with that comment. It's a crime. Please go follow these gentlemen. They do amazing work, and they put so much passion and love into this and deserve to, for other Wheel of Time fans to see this. So, and please, not just follow them, please go share this channel with other people on social media. Sorry, go ahead, Gigi.
Exactly. Yeah. And I just wanted to give a shout out to all the warriors in the chat. I mean, I don't know how people listen to you and chat at the same time. If I want to catch stuff up, I really can't type anything. I have to listen with full attention. So people that continue live chatting and continue with the discussion, that's really great. The question I had for both of you, for both of our guests is, other than a warder, who is a non-warder swordsman or a sword master that you really like in the whole series? Who would be your favorite non-warder swords master?
Great question. Yeah, let's hear it.
I like Inktar. He's
Yeah.
a cool story.
Oh.
He uses some very cool forms, and he carries his sword on his back. So yeah, I think Inktar, and I especially like that whole scene. You know, the scene in the alleyway where he ends up sheathing the sword. That's just very powerful and a great
Yeah.
end to his story arc.
God, non-warder is tough. I don't know. I think I'm gonna say Galad, not just because I played him in the film, but like I don't know. I think it's just like the description of like how good he was, and then I think all of Robert Jordan's description of again, like we were describing earlier, his mindset into it and into his fights and everything was just super cool, and I really love that kind of it's not just a physical art, you're also trying to outwit your opponents and outsmart your opponents. So I think he's a boss.
Yeah.
I think we should mention Gadel Kane as well.
Oh, do I have a favorite?
Yeah,
Oh, that's a
yeah.
good question. The non-warder. That's the one that kind of. So I'll be honest, Turok. It's not that a favorite. I just love how he just presents himself, and he's just okay, I'm looking for he's just I'm looking forward to this. Haven't found anybody that I can, that is worth anything here. But the way that he's described and just his presence, there's something really satisfying about him as a character that actually picks up a sword. Something almost there's a caricature of swordsmen. If you've ever studied a martial art, getting to the part where you're actually that guy, very difficult in my opinion, because it's a very humbling
It's a very
art.
Musashi
Yeah.
like way of thinking of like finally a challenge. Like I can't.
I don't know if you've watched them or not, but a great film is Yojimbo by Akira Kurosawa and Seven Samurai and all them. But Yojimbo is exactly that dude. Like the whole film, nobody can challenge him. He's literally just having fun with these guys because he's that guy. He's that samurai who walks into the town and is like, all right, I'm here, let's go,
Yeah.
So 100% he is that guy. It's worth watching.
But I love that Jordan brought that kind of person in, but it's just not my personal experience. Like my sensei always said this, like, it's basically, and I'm not going to use the right verbiage here, but it's like in any fight, both people are going to walk away injured. Like that's the idea. Like this idea that you're just so cocky and so great that you're never going to run into anybody that's better than you at something. And that cockiness is going to lead to somebody else getting it. In other words, I was never taught in such a way, but I totally get that caricature and I understand it. And I like that they kind of made Turok into that person. Dajit, before we let you go, did you have a favorite? Do you have an answer to your own question?
I really like Tam, although I don't know how formidable he is as a swordsman, but the flame and the void thing, I mean that puts him high in my list. And then
I was actually going to change my answer to Tam. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, because that Dad Althor, I think he's pretty good with the blade.
Tam's a great answer. I'm trying to think of like what would be a good thing to poll people about. Maybe we'll just like pick everyone's favorites, like Lan, Tam. We got to pick some of like the really hammer.
I think.
I
think Pedron Niall as well. I mentioned him earlier, but the fact that he's like aged and can still go toe to toe with the young guys is very impressive. You know, I think he's cool.
Yeah.
I agree.
Despite the fact he's a racist knight, like
as
a sword fighter,
he's
quite good.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, thank you so much for calling in, man. It's awesome to hear your voice. Totally agree and concur with what you had to say.
Again, great stream, and I hope to see one about the 4 great captains. And I think they are underrepresented as well. So in the future, if there can be stream about the great captains, I would really love that.
Yep, I have just the thought and just the guest, I think, for that. So yeah, let's make that happen sooner rather than later. Hey, Dajit, thank you so much, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh man, yeah, that's great. What a great question. My callers, they always call in with fantastic stuff. So let me bring our next caller into the show here. Hey, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. Who's this?
Hey, this is Ro. How's it going, Innkeeper?
Ro, good to hear from you. What's going on, man? What's your question for our guests?
I lift my bootleg mug to you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Cheers.
I hate to rewind things a bit, but we got to go back to our redheaded guest here, being in Vikings. I don't think it's valid unless he says what type of boots he was wearing in the episode.
Okay, that's actually, I have such an answer to that question. I had these on.
Did you really?
And they were wrapped in cloth and my shoelaces. Well, not my shoelaces, but a string very similar to that went up to my leg. So I had very baggy trousers on, not unlike what we had on the show there. And then I had kind of like what Lan has on the bottom of his things, like they're wrapped things. There's a name for them, but I can't for the life of me remember it. But that's what I had on. They wouldn't give me actual boots.
Jedi
Wasn't good
legs.
enough for boots.
You weren't good enough
Jedi
for
legs.
That's so
it wasn't
good.
a valid experience unless you described the boots to the Innkeeper. So, everybody in
Well, let me
chat
go on
is
at length.
saying- Oh, go ahead. Yeah. But everybody in chat has been asking about the dog. Please confirm that the dog's name is what it is.
Yeah, what's the name of the dog?
The dog has several names, depending which of my family you ask, but the name it goes by is Hopper.
Hopper, nice. Oh yeah, this is a good one. So we're showing the one where Hopper just walks right across the center of the screen. It's so great. There you go. There's Hopper.
I have
so
photo
cute.
bomb.
I have a video from when I was very, very young, and I'm not giving the name of it because God knows I'm not letting that thing out. But it's me and my brother lightsaber fighting in the snow, and he knocks me down, and in the middle of it, the dog, it's actually Hopper's older brother Jess, older sister Jess, jumps in and starts licking my face. But on the video, it looks like I've fallen into the snow, and this German Shepherd is savaging my throat as I'm on the ground. And they showed it to my grandmother, and she. But yeah, no, the dogs will, as long as this channel is going, the dogs will always be involved. I don't think it would be right if they weren't.
Well, Ro,
everybody was super excited about that.
I'm glad to hear it. I'll let her know. I'll let them know.
That's a great question. Hey, Ro, thank you very much, man. So, do you have a favorite sword form before we let you go?
Well, that actually kind of merges into my only real question. Is that the two gentlemen guests here today?
Yeah.
Have you ever had a significant other that enjoyed sword form so much that it became play banter, so you could say, "Would you like to part the silk tonight?" Because that is my favorite sword form for that reason.
Row with the question.
I have, but...
Well, now
a blade master never kisses and tells. So.
There you go. That is the best answer, Dylan. Hey, Ro, thanks for calling, man, and thanks for bringing Hopper into the discussion, man. We'll talk to you soon. Okay. Have a good one.
All right, we'll see you, bud.
See you, man. Bye.
Thanks.
A blade master doesn't kiss and tell. That's some good stuff. I love it.
We need to get that on a t-shirt.
Okay, if you're still here, again, we have 2 more callers. We have a number of other sword forms to be talking about here. Love the question. I want to ask you a couple questions once we're done with the callers. I have some questions for you just about the show, the TV series come up. We probably won't get to all of the sword forms. That's okay. We can maybe make a second discussion here, especially once we actually get some fights from the show.
Yeah,
I'd love to have you both back in and like break these down. Where do we see some maybe evidence of some of these sword forms? Where don't we see them? You know, what were you hoping to see, etc. So yeah, I can't wait. But yeah, let's have this next 2 callers in. We'll pick like I said, for the final mug winner at the very end. So stick around here. We still have a lot more to go. But let me welcome into the show Andrew. Andrew, welcome to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing?
Hi. How's it going, guys?
Awesome.
Hi. How are you?
So
my question for you is with regards to the Torek Rand fight scene. Have you ever tried to do the Rand killing move? Because I love that. That was my favorite. And
we actually have it on YouTube. We did a video that has the boar rushes down the mountain, the boar charged downhill, and river undercuts the bank. You'll find it's under the Path of the Moon, I think is the title on it. But in it, we realize it occurred to us that, hey, wait, this is the exact combo that Rand uses. So we actually we go into it a little bit there, and we discuss it, and it's super cool. It's a really cool move. And as I said earlier, River Undercuts the Bank is the only move that has a full physical description and a counter that you can know exactly what Robert Jordan was thinking when he designed this move. But yeah, good shout. That's a great form, and it's a great favorite form.
Physically speaking, did you have trouble doing it? Physically speaking, because it takes strength in the lower legs to do it, at least the way it was described.
I think it's
practically on his knee.
Yeah, no, it'd be quite a common move in the style that we train. So like a lot of the katas we would have trained have this move in it. So initially, yes, like a lot of dented kneecaps where we've hit the ground too hard and stuff. It's to get technical in it. There's actually a great way to practice it where instead of just going dunk down with your knee, if you twist into it and allow your knee to come at the ground this way as opposed to straight down, that can negate a lot of that. It's there's 2 types of movement. There's muscular movement and skeletal movement. And if you use the skeletal movement to do that, it takes off all the strain and it allows your skeleton to support the drop as opposed to like trying to tank it with your legs, which is
also in
a small bit of karate knowledge. Also
in Aikido, like it's probably a lot of other sword martial arts, like you always begin on your knees, like so like a lot of the first sword forms or like sword movements you learn like begin in a kneeling position, and like it's often like you're kneeling down in like a typical like a bowing pose, and then like it's a step up and like onto one knee. So I mean like it's a fairly well established kind of like kind of basic to a degree, in that it's kind of like one like that kind of first position you would learn using a sword. So
I think it's quite common to. It's common to martial artists, I suppose, but outside of martial artists, it might seem counterintuitive to drop to your knee in the middle of a fight. And again, it's described, I think at one point when Robert Jordan is talking about it, he describes it as a very high risk, high reward kind of thing. Like if you don't do it right, off with your head, you know? So you're absolutely right in that it is like more strenuous than just say, you know, threading the needle, which is just, you know?
Right.
Yeah. Big time.
Yeah. Great question, Andrew. I'm kind of curious, Andrew. Do you have a favorite sword master from the book, or just a favorite fight that just comes to mind every time you think of sword forms?
Definitely. I mean, the two favorite fights are that one in the Demandred Land, but probably that one, the Torek Rand one, was probably my favorite.
Yeah.
And as far as the favorite sword master, I mean, I wouldn't call him a sword master, but an underrated one would be Uno.
Yeah.
Uno's great.
Because I mean, certainly, you know, sometimes, the old adage where, you know, sometimes you have to cheat. As long as you survive, it doesn't matter if you cheat. You know, it's not a competition.
Uno definitely fights dirty. Like,
oh yeah, 100%. He's definitely always got pocket sand on him. You know?
Yeah, he's the pocket sand guy. Love it.
Yeah.
Andrew, thank you so much for calling, man. Loved your questions. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon. Okay.
Cheers,
Bye.
Andrew.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
You too. Okay, we have one more caller. I do want to address this question. It came in. Stubble McShave, thank you very much for your tip. Asked, have you guys done moves of Blade versus Aiel's Spear? And is that something you plan to do in the future?
It's not something we've done, but I know like Jim loves Bowstaff, particularly, and is genuinely very good with it too. So it's definitely something that we could look at doing. Whether or not, I don't think we have any immediate plans to do it, but like there's definitely loads of scope to include it. And even then, like adapting, obviously we're doing a lot of sword forms with, you know, one particular type of sword. So like there's also scope to like, you know, do different types of swords, or like sword and shield and things like that too. So I mean, yeah, there's a lot to be done still.
To a peek ahead, I have it in my notebook here somewhere. But some of the stuff on Instagram, we were doing Matrim Mondays, which were basic quarterstaff lessons. We actually got Barney Harris liked a few of them, which was kind of cool. But a peek ahead is we're going to do some Aiel stuff down the line once we kind of get good at it. We're also going to do, like you said, how the sword forms would counter other things. And we have a series coming out on that. We've dedicated a few of the forms to that. So we've got the Path of the Wind as kind of a subset. To make them easier to learn, we made them modular and put them in different paths. So you've got Path of the Moon is kind of a defensive. Learn this first. The next one we're doing is Path of the Wind, which is like battlefield forms where you're not necessarily going against other blade masters, but you're going against, you know, forms you do at a flat sprint to take out a foot soldier, or forms you do to dodge a spear that's being thrown at you and stuff like that.
Fun.
And they're all due to release in the next fortnight-ish, depending on when I can get someone to swing a stick at.
Well, yeah. By the way, in chat they've been doing discarded sword forms. I think it's awesome, the stuff people are coming up with. So after this, I need to go on Twitter and we need to start that. I mean, if someone already has, please do. I'll retweet you. But yeah, let's find out what Twitter of Time and others think about discarded sword forms from the Wheel of Time. What a great hashtag. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna bring our last caller in. Then I have some questions about the TV series and stuff like that. Get some favorites from you both. And then like I said, we'll give away that last winner, and we'll have a mug, and we'll get final thoughts, and we'll call it a day. So let me bring our final caller into the show. Yeah, welcome Jordan to the Dusty Wheel. How you doing this afternoon?
How's it going, Matt? First time caller, long time listener.
Awesome to have you. And I didn't realize, it sounds like you have an extensive history in martial arts.
That I do. A few years in a couple of different arts, but most recently 25 years of teaching Shaolin Kempo.
Oh, nice. Awesome.
Wow. So of course I had to call in when you finally did an episode about martial arts.
You had to. Okay, let's hear it. What were your thoughts coming in? What questions do you have for our guests? Yeah, go for it.
start with, I just wanted to say kudos to you guys for putting this stuff together. I had a thought of doing some of this stuff as much as like 15, 20 years ago when I was an early reader and early in my martial arts career. But none of my martial arts friends were into the Wheel of Time, and none of my Wheel of Time friends were into the martial arts. So it just never happened.
No. Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So you were one of those that answered the poll, like, no, did not have a friend from your childhood that was.
Did you have friends though?
I had a couple. Actually, I was a yes. I had a couple friends that were readers. In fact, it was an early childhood friend that turned me onto the books back when we were like 15, 16 years old, and it was like book 3 had just come out. But he wasn't a martial arts friend.
This is the third level. This is the third level.
Life just never intersected. Yeah,
exactly. You have friends, they've read the Wheel of Time, and they know martial arts. That's a pretty difficult. So sorry, go ahead.
It's tough to me.
Exactly.
So the question I had for you guys, because I was super curious when I heard you were coming on, is what is your history in your training? Like what besides the karate and that you've spoken of already, like how long have you been in the martial arts? What kind of sword styles have you trained specifically? It's just curious where the pieces of the forms you're putting together from the books are coming from.
Yeah, great question.
Nice.
Yeah, go for it. Either one
of those. Yeah. Do you want to jump in, because this is a stop Jim talking situation?
Sure. So my dad kind of got me into martial arts when I was 6 or 7. He's done all kind of like, you name it, he's done it, and had been doing martial arts, for years and years and years. So I kind of grew up in that influence, and kind of as we kind of like mentioned, it was like because of that I've also done lots. So like I've dabbled in taekwondo, I've done like some kung fu, I've done some ninjutsu as well when I was in college, but like my main style is traditional karate, so I do shitoryu. So it's fairly similar to Shotokan, to be honest. A lot of the same kind of like a lot of like deep stances and things like that, as opposed to like Wadaru or Goju-ryu. So yeah, like I did that for 15 years or so. Have a 3rd-degree black belt. And then, like I said, like I ran a club with my dad for the guts of 9 years, kind of in my hometown where both me and Jim are from. Have done, kind of, and then really kind of just like, it's true, just, years in training, meeting different people, going to loads of different competitions, kind of picking up different styles, kind of here, there, and everywhere, and kind of like, discussing it with different martial artists, kind of like going to different seminars. Like whenever like there was like a seminar for like some other like master from a different country or something, me and my dad would go, even if it wasn't necessarily to do with our style, there's always something we could learn, So I've kind of like, I've taken that kind of, concept of, there's no one right way to do anything when it comes to martial arts.
Exactly.
And like,
totally.
I think that's very hard to come by. Not a lot of people kind of share that same opinion. So yeah, but I guess kind of just through my upbringing and all of my experience in loads of different martial arts, and even like when I was doing like traditional karate, we had other people come into the classes and stuff, and like Jim, like you done Shotokan before, and like came in, and like even the way we run classes was very different. We tried to incorporate different elements into it. So yeah, I got kind of just transferred into learning different weapons. Like I also did like XMA and things like that as well, so it really, really varied for me anyway.
Yeah, and I'd be almost exactly the same as Dylan. That again, I started in the Shotokan and moved into the Shitoryu with him and his father in the dojo for, again, like I think I was there for 14 of the 15 years or whatever, like beginning to end.
College happened.
Yeah, college sent me off to Waterford, and when I was in Waterford, then I started learning the historic European martial arts, and that's where a lot of the stances and way the Heron come from as well, is the guard positions. And then outside of that, there's a little bit of, you might see some of the Shaolin stances. Like we've only had it's probably the smallest we've done, but there's a little bit of it in there with, like, I don't know if you know it, like they have some crazy moves like occupying the open doors, like darting out to the left and jumping in. But I know there's like a million subsets, so, but there's a little bit of that. And then the last thing you'd probably see in it is there's quite a bit of fencing. So I had gone to Italy for a few months to learn fencing, and when I got back, a lot of the sword forms changed dramatically because suddenly I was aware of glaring holes that we had put in it and stuff. So, like, again, we're coming from mostly a karate background, as Dale said, but there's little bits and pieces here. It's like if you ever go somewhere, learn one thing and take it with you, you know?
Yeah.
So it's a
For
whole
sure.
mishmash.
Well, I mean, you don't got to convince me. I'm studying Kempo for as long as I have. I mean, Kempo is kind of the original mixed martial art. It's a little bit of everything. As far as blades go, most of my experience is in Shaolin broadsword, but you know, I've done a little I've done a little bit of fencing as well. But anyway, I just wanted to say you guys are awesome. Kudos to putting all this stuff together. And I got to say one thing before I get off the phone, because I noticed, I think it was the second caller came in. You literally lifted up your shoes. I'm legit wearing the exact same shoes. No
way! They are great
totally
shoes.
Random.
Nice one.
But,
Shoe bros.
If you want to be a sword master, you need these shoes.
Yeah,
exactly.
You need
I won't
these
drop a
shoes.
name, but you all saw them.
Hey, thank you so much for calling in, Jordan. Really appreciate you being a long time
Cheers, Jordan.
viewer, first time
My pleasure,
caller.
Matt.
Glad we found an episode that you wanted to call in and talk about. It's awesome to hear from you. So.
Well, I've wanted to call in for a lot of them. I'm really bummed I missed the 2-year anniversary, but I'm glad I was able to make it on today. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll talk to you soon. Hopefully you call back. Okay, bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.
By the way, I'm liking NSFWSF, which is not safe for work, sword forms. That's the latest.
Isn't that, don't
That's
the
what's been
Domani
filling
have
chat.
that? Don't the Domani have that in the
That's
books where it's like they have similar names to
special forms?
I love it. I love it. Okay. Thank you to our callers. That was awesome. We still have one more winner to be picked here. Gabriella, we saw you in chat. That's awesome. Congratulations. Let's jump to some final questions here. I have to bring this up because it comes up every time the Eye of the World cover comes up, and now it comes up every time the EW cover photo comes up of the cast.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
Okay, and we're going to talk about it for a second, but I just want an answer from both of you, yes or no. Ready? Sword on back. Yeah. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, it's cool as hell.
I love it. As hell. Okay. I want to ask Chat that. Okay, Chat has to answer along with us. Sword on back, and the question is basically, well, we'll just leave. We'll let them. We'll let them answer as they will. Sword on back. This always comes up. Everyone's always like, the sword's on the back. I mean, Eye of the World for land, lots of stuff comes up. Like armor, what? All these other things. But sword on back. But both of you, I love it. You're like, yes, cool as hell. Let's go. So Dylan, go ahead, Jim. Go ahead. You can go first.
But I only had this conversation yesterday with someone, and we ended up going through the books. But yeah, Lan wears a sword on his back. So like, if it's good enough for Lan, because I think at one point Rand in book 2, Rand walks and he's like, "Oh God, is Moraine still following me?" And he asks an innkeeper, he's like, "Hey, have you seen my friends? It's like a short lady in blue and a big warrior dude, and he often wears he says he sometimes wears his sword on his back." So like, headcanon accepted, he does. He wears his sword on his back. But also, the funny thing is, literally anytime Ingtar mentions his sword, it's described like he must just walk around like this, like a cowboy over his shoulder
thing, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Because he's like, literally any time, it's like Ingtar's sword hilt picked over his shoulder, like, and his hand went for it. So he must just be walking around like this the whole time, every time. It's great. But no, we've done it before. Like it was actually back in that level up thing. We scabbarded a sword on our back, and we worked out it's totally doable. Putting it back in is a nightmare. You have to line it up. We found that if you put it straight to your arm like that, it's very easy. You just put it up and down like that. But to draw it, it's not an issue at all. You just grab the scabbard down here low, and then you have control of it this way, and you pull up here and down here, and the sword comes out, and it looks exactly as cool as it does in all those movies. So
I love it.
I am vigorously pro.
Vigorously pro, sword on back. Are you the same place, Dylan, on this?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, yeah, I just think it's so cool, and like, we're doing this because we think it's cool. So that's
by the way, I didn't know.
I'm
going to go find that quote after this. because I am. I need to find that quote, and I'm going to put it up on like an image and post it to social
media.
media.
The Great Hunt.
Okay, we'll
it is. Hold on, I have it screenshot. Are
you serious? Okay, send it to me. Yeah. Send it to me. I want to go find that. Yeah.
Just this morning, I had this conversation.
And if you want to take this, you let me know. If you want to throw together a quick image, and I will retweet and reshare that thing too. I just want to share it out because everyone gets a little bit like it's so funny. I don't know if it's the first time they see it. They're like, sword on the back is not, that's ridiculous, and I saw some comments of that, like when the EW article came out. And of course there's the parody of that to the cover, but I had never really paid attention to this. Like, this wasn't something honestly, every time somebody brings it up, don't care. Every time somebody questions it, I'm always like, well, it's on the cover. Okay. So I love that you're both pro sword. I love that you've actually like tried to make it work, and you're like, this is functionally how it would work. And then I love that you found it, that Rand notes it about Lan in the books. So I love it.
And it's so funny it came up because it's just, I just had this conversation earlier today. So happy days.
That's so good. That's so good. Yeah. Okay. Speaking about the TV series, while you find that, Dylan, what do you when it comes to sword forms, what are your hopes here? Like, sword forms in the Wheel of Time, you guys work in this. You do this. You study this aspect of trying to kind of piece together all these cultural connections and martial art connections and what Robert Jordan was meaning by this. Are you hopeful that they go and do the same thing? Are you hopeful that they don't do that and they just kind of give us really cool looking sword fighting and don't worry about it? Or are you hoping for something in between?
It's got to be somewhere in between, because I think there's such a narrative element to the descriptions of the sword forms, even if you look at how and why Lan teaches Rand cat crosses the courtyard, there is a narrative drive to it. So I think it would be missing that kind of bit of charm if there isn't at least kind of in those instruction pieces, first, here's a flame in the void. Here's how you achieve your oneness. Here's then how you move with the sword and how you move through sword forms. I mean, so I think that's a really cool from being a book lover aspect of it and kind of wanting to see that on screen. Yeah. But then from just like a pure entertainment point of view, I mean, I also just want to see cool sword forms. I want to see or cool sword fights, and want to see, I want to see this deadly dance of blade masters, whirling, hitting their blades. If it would be great if I could look at it and be like, hey, that kind of looks like something, that type of things that me and Jim have worked out. But if it doesn't and it's still entertaining, then I mean, I'm just happy to be seeing it on screen. That's not what me and Jim have done. It'd be really cool to see other stuff. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Yeah, that makes sense. Jim, where are you at in this?
Very similar. Like, don't get me wrong, I would love if they came out and we're like, here's the sword forms.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. I have my doubts that we might get them as they are in the book. I feel like from a practical filmmaking point of view, from a production point of view, they're going to go with aesthetics rather than practicality, which is 90% of the time. That's the way in this kind of thing. But I'd love a bit of consistency, whereas if something is used once and then again in the book it's the same form, we see the same move being used later on down the line. Like, again, take Boar Rushes Down the Mountain is used a few times. If we see it once and then we see it again and it's recognizable as the same form, that would just light my fire. Yeah. That would be great.
Yeah.
Or if there's a scene where he's being taught that form or something, and then you see him use it, and even if he's obviously we're probably not gonna have an internal dialogue of I need to use Heron weights through the rushes now, but it'd be cool to see that kind of
right.
But again,
this is the form, and then you get to see him use it in action.
Yeah,
because there are times where the form plays into the narrative. So you look at sheathing the sword. He's taught that it's there will come a time when you may have to sheath the sword in your own body, whatever. And then that at the end of the Great Hunt actually plays in. So that is foreshadowing the end of the book where Inktar is in the alleyway reminding Rand, and then Rand up in the sky is like, oh, better do that. Like, that's the kind of thing where I think in those situations it's crucial that the form is defined so that when we see it called back, we can be like, that is the form that Lan taught him on the tower or whatever,
Yeah.
But other than that, as long as it looks cool, I'm happy,
Yeah.
I'm more than happy to, because again, we made our things solely on the books. It's a different medium, it's a different thing.
Yeah, I would love it. They've talked about, I want to say, they've talked about pronunciations, and they talked about how they've made a big deal about the language, like Old Tongue, I think. And so I wonder if they've taken just as much like emphasis on understanding whether or not it's like included in it, right? Like maybe in the Old Tongue we'll only get some words, but at least everyone has the same fundamentals. Like we're basing it upon this. If you use this, make sure you use this vocabulary. I would love it if they had a martial art vocabulary for the show, where it's like, this is how we interpret this move. If you're going to do something like this, do it just like this to kind of show how this person learned this form or didn't. Because I would love, it would be awesome if they paid it that much attention. I don't need it to be every move. Whatever,
it's unrealistic to think that they'll have more than 5 or 6 that they focus on. I think.
Yeah.
At the outside, like, but I totally agree. Like, if they take that approach with it, I would be delighted.
It'd be great as well, kind of to, take that sort of like mindset approach as well. So even just to kind of see, where you kind of get that narrative building in a duel, so we can identify who is the more aggressive fighter, who is the more defensive fighter, who is, trying to punish their opponent for overreaching, those type of things, If we can kind of see those same elements translated, again, if the sword forms aren't exactly how we've imagined them, that's fine. As long as they look cool, you get that same feeling in the fight, then that's the heart of it.
I think we have a good sense of how they're going to look, though, just going off the sword we've been given. Like so the sword is a katana, and that's got a very distinct style of sword fighting associated with it, like if they're going off like the actual martial arts, katana is a two-handed grip with a strong stance, shoulders forward, Land's one on his back looks kind of smaller, so maybe he's going to be a lot of one-handed slashes and stuff, which would be very cool. Like, that lends itself to heaps of flourishes, which would be cool. And I think a Blade Master would. Like, if you're swinging it like that, they're swinging it like that, But I think we can draw, we can make some predictions on how it's going to look just based on the weapon they've presented us with as well,
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I hope both of you will come back on once the show comes out, and we'll do an after show that just talks about sword forms and stuff like that. Or like we'll watch it live. We'll do or we'll watch it after the fact, like a rewatch party. And as we're doing it, but we're like fast forwarding and skipping to kind of like sword forms and fights and taking. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
That'd be great.
Oh yeah, big time. I'd love that.
So by the way, sword on back
out for hours,
Oh yeah, we can do that exactly. And by the way, sword on back, all of you, I think 70 some odd % of you said yes. Oh yeah, just about 78% of you said yes on this. That's I don't know that I thought that was gonna be any different. So that's probably by line what I thought that was gonna be. But I just love how excited you both were. Like yes, absolutely. Okay. A lot more we could keep going on and asking about. There's a lot more sword forms. I think it's best to save that for let's do this again, right? We don't have to cover it all today. For those of you that have joined us, go ahead, Jim.
We'll do another fight scene. Let your viewers vote what fight scene they want, and we'll do it.
Yes. Okay. Cool. So we're gonna don't do it here in chat. We'll go on social media. We'll find out. We'll give a place where you're which fight scene would you like them to do next. And then we'll do a top 4, and we'll vote between those top 4. Maybe we'll even have a show and vote those here once we kind of put together a list of those fights. But yes, that's an awesome idea. Let's do that. I want to ask. I thought there was a poll that I was going to ask everyone about this. Now I can't remember what it was, but that's okay. Before I let you both go, I did want to know quickly favorites of your own. So Dylan, favorite form? Do you have one?
Oh, I think River Undercuts the Bank is probably my favorite, just because one, it's real satisfying to do. It feels cool, and then it's one of those kind of where the name and the description just match perfectly. So it's it's such a clear movement and a clear form, and it's just done really, really, really cool.
Okay, least favorite form then.
Oh,
is there one? We're just I hate this every time.
I wouldn't say least favorite form, but not one that comes to mind anyway. Kind of any ones that we've done have been fun. Obviously, there's some that kind of are just a name, and you're actually no. I'm gonna say any one of the ones that are where it feels like he's just said the same form but with a slightly, where it's like it was a boar last time and it's a bear this time or something. Like
if you watch our video about the boar rushes down the mountain and the boar charges downhill, probably about 60% of that video is us trying to remember the name and differentiate between the two forms, because it's definitely a case where like he was riding Great Hunt and he's like, the boar charged down the mountain, and then he was like in Life of Dreams, he was like, what was that called? The boar charged downhill. But now we have two names that are more than likely the same phrase, like, you know.
Yeah, that makes sense. To you, Jim, favorite fight of the whole series?
Favorite fight. Lan in New Spring versus all the dudes.
Yeah. That's a great one. Yeah, that's a great
fight. That's my favorite.
That might be the one we ask you to do.
I need more dudes.
We need a lot of extras. So.
We need to get some extras. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Give me a few weeks to train up some people, and we'll do that.
Oh my gosh, no, that would be awesome. Yeah, no, I love the idea of you coming back, doing another one, and again, once the show comes out, having you on and kind of breaking down some of these sword forms. Do you have people were asking this, do you have a favorite either stunt coordinator? Have you looked into the stunt coordinator for the show? Are you excited about what you might see there?
To be honest, all I know about the stunt guy on the show is that Rafe has said he's magnificent and he can turn anything into a weapon. So I didn't catch his name when he said it, but I don't know that the guy I worked with on Vikings was called Franklin. I think he's retired, but he did Return of the Jedi and everything, and he's very cool. He's not it, but I enjoyed the little bit of work I did with him. Yeah,
that's awesome. By the way, everyone has to go see that Vikings episode.
Prepare to be disappointed. I am a slightly lighter grey than the grey beside
Season 3, episode 7.
For that one episode, and
yeah, exactly. Amazon Prime is going to be like
so
season
confused.
1, season 2, season 3, season 2.
Well, I love it. I'll get that quote from you afterwards from The Great Hunt. We'll post that up there. We're going to do a mug giveaway here. Thank you all for sitting around and enjoying this Sunday afternoon. I love Sunday afternoon shows. They're just fun. There's nothing else to be said. They're so casual and interesting. And thank you very much for preparing for this. We'll probably play that fight just to end this off one more time. We'll make sure we put the link in the description so you can all find that. And again, please go follow these gentlemen at Way of the Heron. I know they would appreciate it. And go share their stuff. Like it's less about, yes, subscribe, but across Facebook, follow them on Instagram. And make sure you let other fans know that they're out there and how they can get a hold of them. Again, this has been a lot of fun. Let's pick our last winner tonight for the mug. Thank you all that are still here that showed up Wednesday and we couldn't give away mugs. So here we go. Our second winner of a mug is, and I actually can see the winner, but we'll let it pop up in chat. Our second winner is actually Jasna Colin. How do you I think
congratulations, Brightness.
Yeah, Brightness. Yeah. Won a Dusty Wheel mug. That's right. Congratulations. Please do reach out if you're here. We'll give you a minute or two to respond here. Hopefully you've seen this, but congratulations on your mug win. That's awesome. Any final notes from you two? Just either about sword forms in general you want some of the fans to know, or just a final thought about the TV series before we let you go for the evening.
Cannot wait for the TV series, and sword forms are incredible. Come and learn them.
Yeah, we'd absolutely love for you guys to, take some of the tutorials we've done, practice themselves. Even if you don't have a sword, that's fine. Get a broom handle, a stick, whatever you want. Take some videos, share them with us. That would mean the world.
That's our absolute favorite.
Super cool. Yeah.
On a blue moon, we get videos of people doing this stuff we teach, and that makes it for us. Like, all we want from this is that people will learn the sword forms.
Yeah.
So absolutely, pick up a stick and do that.
Please do, yeah. And as a final note to master the deck, yes, I'm not great at pronouncing. Pronouncing. There we go. I found it. Pronouncing particular names, and certainly not outside of the Wheel of Time. If you thought I sucked at it in the Wheel of Time, then I suck at it even more outside of it. So I'm sure that's nowhere near how do you pronounce that name in Brandon's books. But that being said, thank you, gentlemen. I agree. Please go check these out. This has been a lot of fun. Like I said, we'll probably play the Embers on Falling. I forget what this thing's called again.
Names are immaterial.
Embers Falling on Dry Grass. Is that what we need? Is that what it is?
Nice.
Yes.
Nailed
There
it.
we go. My brain
Thank
was
you
like,
for having us.
made sense. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
We're going to do this again.
It's really fun.
And congratulations to our 2 mug winners. Please do check
congrats.
in with us after the show. And here is Embers Falling on Dry Grass one more time. This was so much fun.
Bye, guys.
Thanks.
Okay, we're back one last time to say this. That's it, everybody. Thanks for being here. And as we say around here, and I like this variation, by the way, that they just came up with, good afternoon from the Dusty Wheel and slash to black.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel.
You went right to kill it. Look at you. You're already. You're just done. I mean, this is like this is
really well. And now I'm like, great, my turn.
And if you don't like that, and you want to say, well, Robert Jordan could have made the 2 rivers all white. He could have, but he didn't. So,
just complimented me on my dress, and as you can clearly see, I'm
sad. I see Nakomi as something along the lines of a Shida Heron analog.
It does make sense why it outlasted the breaking.
Yeah.
See, this is why I have Therese in the show, because she's going to correct everything that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dusty Wheel Show. What? Meme Off Challenge. Yay!
Pair of like baby face mounted on like a huge body. So like all of a sudden,
this is not just a traditional fantasy, right? There are sci-fi
and
elements.
Just a moment ago, Rafe tweeted something. So let me get my guests in here with me, and
probably I would say put in 70-80% of the work. I got to be over the shoulder and be like, no,